Hello everybody, welcome to a new episode of the series Hometowns. Hometowns. Today we have a special person, unlike all the other episodes where we had random people. Nobody less than Mr. Johnny Cash, the man in black, who spent much of his youth somewhere between the east and west coast, in the prairies and the Great Plains. In 1932, February 26th, which happened to be a Friday, he was born here in Arkansas, Kingsland, Arkansas. A town, apart from the name, maybe, that is quite nice to have in your birth certificate. There's well, I say it from being very far away, there's nothing to see. But if you zoom in, you see the Johnny Cash birthplace monument. Now, why do you see that? Well, because his house is not there anymore, and I also didn't find any old pictures of it. He, together with his family, that is mother, father, brother, hope I'm not forgetting anyone, was born here next to this Baptist church, Kingsland First Baptist Church, I shall rather say, with a nice water tower, as you would expect in Arkansas. There are some guitars, some Walk of Fame stars, and some plaquette, some stone. Kind of looks like a tombstone, to be honest. And either the fence is marking... Well, the fence is not the outlines of the house, is it? Well, he lived here by the railway, which may or may not... Well, I have thought may have influenced him because, he dreams of getting far away, taking the train to Memphis and all these kind of places. Or just dreaming about when he was young. However, he only lived here until 3 years old, so it's questionable how much he even remembers. Probably nothing. Before we get to the place where he actually spent his youth, let's have a look at it, because I do want to read what's written there. Kingsland, Arkansas, birthplace of Johnny Cash, born February 26, renowned in country, western, and religious music. Religious music, well, I don't know if he would subscribe to that. He was a Christian, but calling his music religious, well, maybe he did. God knows. Here on this water tower, actually, amazingly, is a little painting of Johnny Cash with a guitar on the ground that he kind of just drags behind him. Here's a picture. Maybe it's of this particular home, although it says post office. He wasn't born in the post office. And yeah, welcome to Kingsland, birthplace of Johnny Cash. Yeah, as we had with so many other of these hometowns, once there are some, sorry Kingsland, no-name towns, and someone so famous was born there, they really tried to make a big deal out of it. Johnny Cash moved with his parents and siblings from Kingsland to Dyers in 1935 when he was 3 years old. Johnny would often return to the Kingsland area to visit or stay the night with his Cash and Rivers relatives during his youth and early in his career. On one of such trips through Kingsland, Johnny and his girlfriend... Johnny and his friend Elvis Presley stayed the night with his Rivers kin, who treated them to biscuits for the road. In 1959, Johnny returned for a fishing trip to the area, accompanied by his friend, singer Johnny Horton. While here, well-known photos of the two men were taken in front of the old Kingsland post office. Alright, so this is on his fishing trip of Mr. Johnny Cash and Mr. Johnny Horton, the two Johnnies, as they like to call them back in the days. This picture here is where we will go now. The place where he has spent his youth, I would imagine, from age 3 to age, God knows, 16, 18, 20, something along these lines, in Dyers. Dyers is also in Arkansas, however much closer to Memphis, and I did read that he would go to Memphis. You know, it's the biggest city, so he would go there on the weekends, maybe to play concerts, to get in contact with the cultural scene over there at the time, 1950 onwards. So this place is where his family moved. You can see it's absolutely in the middle of nowhere. The closest neighbor over here is a bush, and the closest neighbor on the other side is a couple of old houses, a couple of 100 meters away. And he would work on cotton fields, and it's also where, if you have seen I Walk the Line, his brother had this chainsaw accident. And yeah, this family would be very poor, and this time in particular would influence Johnny's writing really for the rest of his life, where he had a strong sympathy for the poor and the weak, the outlaws of society, people he would get in contact with. As flat of lands as you can imagine, Johnny Cash, boyhood, home. Can you even imagine to live here? 266 West CO Road 924. CO is probably short for something. Arkansas, the natural state. Very natural indeed around here, Arkansas. I'm not sure if you can go in. I have thought it is a museum. Look at the house from all sides. It's a tiny house. Ridiculous, given that you have all the space in the world around it. So I suppose they would just spend a lot of time outside. I guess this might be some kind of storage spaces, outhouse. I don't think there was a sauna here in the garden, really. Looks like one, however. Obviously the house is kept very neat and very tidy and very nice. But what we can do is check these pictures here. Johnny Cash, boyhood home. It's extremely aesthetic, if that's the right word. Minimalist, one could say today. There's an oven, wooden interior, some kind of non-carpet wallpaper used as a carpet. This, I don't think, was his bed, perhaps of his parents. Solid bed. The table. Simple, picturesque, honest. You know, this man came from nothing. There's a piano. I think there would be a lot of music sang in the house, perhaps. I'm not sure at the moment if his parents were also musicians by any means. Yeah. Food and groceries and cups and blankets from the time. Everything was canned when Johnny Cash grew up. Oh my god. I have a little bit of a fever, so please forgive me if I dive into nonsense. Senior class, can you find Johnny here? I hope he's not behind that. Why would there be a picture of a class if Johnny Cash is not on it? Or am I just too blind to see? This guy looks like the guitarist from his band, I don't know, the Tennessee 3 or the Highwaymen or whoever was in this band in the scene where they play Folsom Prison Blues in the movie I Walk the Line. But yeah, okay, there's just some people. Dyers. I mean, we are in a tiny place and we are not even in that place. In fact, before we have a look at this place, let me just show you. There were a few photo points. I want to move around a little bit more freely. Yeah, it's crazy, huh? To live here. You are in like a tiny cabin in a super wide land. Okay, I show you this now that I just clicked on it. He grew up in the middle of nowhere, but later he has been everywhere. And this website has marked all locations that he references in the song I've Been Everywhere. Here you have them as a list: Reno, Chicago, Fargo, Minnesota, Buffalo, Toronto, Winslow, Sarasota, Wichita, Tulsa. Yeah, pretty nice, huh? The man from the middle of nowhere, in the end, had seen everything and never forgot where he came from. Never forgot where he came from, at least that's the impression I get. Here, proudly returning in older age in his long leather excuse me, jacket. Yeah, so this is Johnny Cash's boyhood home. The town, Dias, happens to be somewhere here. There are 5 more people living, of course. There's Street View from 2008, one of the first places Google was eager to put on Street View. And in a way, with this old footage, it gives a little bit of an idea of how it might have felt some 60 years earlier, 70 years earlier, when Johnny Cash was strolling these streets. His wife then later and forever in life, June Carter Cash, was from Virginia. I'm not entirely sure how they met, but I think her being from a relatively small place, they shared something I have no idea about, but I would assume they shared some kind of character traits that maybe people from these underprivileged, poorer places might have. You know, just a different, more dry, perhaps comical view on life. But this is just me hypothesizing. I actually don't know much about it. Yeah, so this is Johnny Cash's boyhood home. Always lived near a big road that would go on, railway, here road, that would go on for many, many miles away. And yeah, somehow it's wild to imagine that someone that's so famous comes out of a place that, you know, if you don't zoom in enough, almost doesn't seem to exist. A tiny place, really, really, really far away from absolutely everything. There's some nice websites that tell you a little bit more about the place and his youth. Here he is again working in these cotton fields where he used to harvest cotton. He was younger with his. Is this his wife? Here, by the way, it also says he would listen to his mother Carrie sing and play gospel music. She later taught him to play guitar. Yeah, so I linked you these articles. By the way, one fun fact I've also learned about him is that he was the first in the West to hear about Stalin's death, because he was stationed in Germany as member of the Air Force at the time, and somehow deciphered some Morse code that Soviets sent to one another. I'm not sure if this is written here, otherwise you'll just hear it twice. But yeah, I link you all of these things. Thanks you very much for watching, and stay true. Bye bye.